Okay, so we're looking at parallelograms this week, but let me just talk about parallelograms, something really cool. Now, we talked about them before. We said that the side that is on the top and the bottom are parallel. And then, some of the fact, sometimes I'm gonna encourage you guys to keep on doing the drawings, the marking. So I'm gonna use those arrows to say they're parallel. And then these two sides are going to be parallel as well. I'm going to do arrows this time. I don't always use arrows. If I say they're parallelograms, so on the instructions I said it is a parallelogram, I don't have to do the arrows. But one interesting part when it comes to the sides, let's just say this side, one of the sides is 5, just to give it a number. The side that is parallel to that is also going to be the same measurement. So this is 5. When it comes to this other side, let's say this side is 7, then I'm going to say this one is also 7. Opposite sides are equal. That's interesting that happens on the parallelograms. Opposite sides are equal. Now, when we're talking about angles, opposite angles are equal. As an example, let's say this angle right here is 80 degrees. Then I'm going to say this other one here, it is also 80. Opposite in geometry means far away, right? On the other side, opposite angles are equal. Now, adjacent angles are basically those two angles that are connected by a side. They're not necessarily equal. So I'm looking at this other angle. This one's not necessarily 80 degrees, but two adjacent angles add up to 180. So I'm looking at the angles at the bottom. One of them is 80. I'm going to say the other one is 100 because two adjacent angles must add to 180. And if we look at this, is 100. Now, if you add the angles, 100 plus 100 plus 80 plus 80, you will get 360. Remember, we talk about a formula, n minus 2 times 180. So it does hold to that formula still. It will still hold to it. So remember, opposite sides are equal, opposite angles are equal. Now, adjacent angles add up to 180. All right, so let's take a look at question number 33. For today's notes, we're going to work 33 and 34. So solve for x, each figure is a parallelogram. I'm talking about the sides here. Every time I talk about the sides, if you notice back on my picture here, every time I mentioned sides or I was discussing sides, the numbers were outside of the figure. Every time I'm discussing angles, the angles are inside the figure. So now looking at this one, I'm talking about the sides. It says solve for x. I know one side is 7, and I know another side is x minus 2. The way I'm going to solve for x, I'm going to let those two equal each other. So I'm going to say x minus 2 is equal to 7. All right, let me separate them through the equal sign. The minus 2, I'm going to cancel it out, but on the other side, I'm going to write it as a plus 2. Don't forget to switch the sign. So I get x is equal to 9, right? 7 plus 2 gives me 9. There you go. X equals 9. Looking at number 34, this measurement, we're talking about sides. Again, we're talking about sides because the measurement is outside. But I know this measurement is equal to this other measurement. So I'm going to say 13 plus x is equal to 13. Let me separate them to the equal sign. To get the x by itself, this positive 13, let me cancel it out. I'm going to move it to the other side as a minus 13. So I get x is equal to 0. Right? 13 minus 13 is 0. So there you go. X is equal to 0. By coincidence, on our examples, they were both sides. But in your homework, you're going to be dealing with some angles. Just remember, opposite angles. So looking at number 34, I could have given you, let's say this one right here, let's call it 85. And then in here, to solve for another letter, I could call this y plus 1. That way you're going to solve for y. In this case, you let them equal each other. Y plus 1 equals 85. And then I could even ask for a z here. 85 plus z is equal to 180. Remember, in angles, opposite angles are equal. Adjacent angles add up to 180.